One day in 2009, Susannah Cahalan woke up in a hospital room, alone, strapped to her bed, unable to move or to speak. For exactly 1 month, she descended into madness and insanity. She recovered ultimately and wrote a book about her illness, Brain on Fire, a bestseller. Susannah, welcome to TEDxAmsterdamWomen.
Oh, I'm
Great.
so happy to be here.
How much do you remember of that month in hospital?
It's mostly entirely dark, especially because the part of my brain affected by the disease is called the hippocampus, which is responsible for memory storage.
What happened to you?
I had something called autoimmune encephalitis, which is where your body's immune system begins to target and attack the brain.
How did you end up in hospital?
I ended up in the hospital after I had a seizure. So I started with kind of moodiness and feeling out of it. First, I was trying so hard to figure out what was going on, and then as the disease progressed, I wasn't even capable of thinking rationally at all. Everything, all the hallucinations I saw were so real. They were so real that I couldn't even get out of it.
And how did you end up in hospital?
So I had these seizures, and I began to actively hallucinate and have these kind of violent reactions. So at that point, my family said she needs to be hospitalized, but they were adamant that I not be placed in a psychiatric ward.
Okay. And then there's this one day you wake up and you're in a hospital room alone. Mm-hmm. What happened next?
So from that moment on, I was actually initially diagnosed with a psychiatric condition, but then this incredible doctor entered my life, and his name's Dr. Suel Najjar, and he basically pieced it all together, just being an out-of-the-box thinker, and thought, I don't think this is a psychiatric condition, I think this is something neurological, I think this is something treatable.
And then, what happened then? Because you were there already for weeks, maybe?
Yes, this was about 3 weeks into the hospital stay, and I'm getting worse and worse. And they did $1 million worth of tests, and everything's clean. On paper, I'm fine, but I'm getting worse and worse. At that point, I couldn't even read, I couldn't write, I could hardly even speak.
And what exactly did he discover? What kind of neurologic thing was it?
He discovered that basically my body's immune system was attacking and targeting my brain. So basically what happened was when my immune system started kind of overreacting, my brain was affected, and the parts of the brain that were affected were responsible for learning, memory, and behavior. So I became a different person, yeah.
And how did you recover?
So they gave me pretty routine therapies, steroids and immune therapies, and it took me about a year to kind of get back to who I was. But, you know, it's amazing because at the height of that disease, you think someone can't come back from this, but I was able to.
How did your family and friends react? Were they staying with you in the hospital?
Oh yeah, I mean, they were my support group. They were my life force. You know, they were there every single day. They came in, they fought for me. You know, there were threats of sending me to a psychiatric hospital. They fought that. You know, they were there 100% when I couldn't be there for myself.
And why did they fight it? You're transferring to a psychiatric hospital?
Because they knew that they knew that something else was happening. That this wasn't just, you know, a mental disorder. You know, they thought there's something else here. The seizures, I had strange heart rate fluctuations, I had numbness on one side. There seemed to be something else, and I think they just felt that they knew me, and they felt that was the right thing to do, to fight for me to stay there.
I read that your dad kept a diary during that time.
Yes, he did. Yeah, and reading that now, because to write the book, I mean, I didn't remember, like, you know, pretty much anything from that time. And so I had to rely on other people's recollection of that time. And so my dad's diary was very helpful, though very painful to read.
And what did you read in it?
I mean, he talks about getting on his knees and praying, you know, and this is someone who wasn't, you know, a strongly religious person. He had had a religious background as a child, but, you know, he would pray for God to take him instead of me. I mean, these are poignant, pretty hard to read passages.
Yeah. And in your worst period, were you aware of the people around you?
No. In my worst period, I mean, my family says that they saw glimmers. I would say, get me out of here. I want to get out of here. And they would say, okay, we still see you in there, but I don't remember anything of that time.
Okay. And now you wrote a best-selling book, Brain on Fire. Why did you want to share your story?
Well, it's so important because I got lucky. I had this amazing doctor enter my life. But I think about all those people out there throughout history and currently now who are overlooked or misdiagnosed or not properly treated, who maybe are given a stigma of a mental disease or disorder, and they really have something that's curable or treatable like I did. And I want to make sure that luck is completely taken out of the equation, that everyone gets the same care that I did.
How do people react when they read your story?
I think they're pretty scared. I think depending on their life circumstances, I've been told that, they become a hypochondriac after reading my book because they think, oh no, is this going to happen to me? But I've also had really amazing experiences where people who've read my book have gotten proper diagnoses. So, I mean, as a journalist, it doesn't get better than that.
No, it's true. And this year's subtitle of TEDxAmsterdamWomen is "It takes more than one tale to tell a story." How does that relate to your TED Talk today?
Oh, I mean, I think that relates in such a kind of specific way because the way that I tell my story is by relying on the tales of others, right? And trying to piece it all together into one narrative. And you realize how each of our perspectives no one has a perfect memory and everyone's perspective is different, and trying to get the truth of a matter is really hard. It's really hard. And impossible, actually.
Yeah. And how are you doing now? You're looking great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel fantastic, and I'm so excited to be here. I'm a little nervous, but excited, and I mean, it's just an honor to be here. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.